School District for Tuesday, August 13th. May we have a roll call, please?
Student.
Maybe we need to wait till Ron comes back. Okay, we'll just wait a second for him to come back. Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Student Board Member Lee.
Present.
Member Maris.
Present.
Member Rosenbaum.
I'm here.
President Black.
Here. Okay. So, my goodness. For those who wish to participate, we'll now say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there was no action taken in closed session. Okay, I think we need to, this is a little bit out of order here. We need to approve the agenda before we do anything else, and we have a few changes suggested to the agenda. So we just had a request to move the presentation about mental health services up to the beginning, along with the resolution to recognize the mental health supervisors so that they're here when we have the report. And then we have the Common Core implementation, and then we have a couple of items that we want to pull from the consent.
So I'd like to recommend that we move the recognition of the donations from AEF to off the consent calendar and put that towards the front of the, somewhere in the beginning. And I'd also like to ask if we could move the consent calendar before the Common Core implementation presentation, since that looks like it's going to be taking a long time.
Do which before the Common Core?
The approval of the consent calendar.
I don't know. Is that fine? All right, then let's just move the whole consent.
That's fine with me as well.
Good. Then, okay with you?
I think we should do the recognitions first. Yeah.
Okay, let's do the recognition of AEF first. Then we have the recognition
Okay.
of volunteer mental health clinical supervisors and the report on mental health services.
And then the consent.
Yep.
Then the consent.
When are we doing the consent calendar? I'm having trouble hearing you.
The consent will be after the recognition of volunteer services, but we also volunteer mental health clinical supervisors, but we also want to pull one item from the consent, which is the personnel order. And I think we want to put that up before we approve the consent also. So
could we do recognition of the Education Foundation and the recognition of the volunteers, and then the personnel assignment order, and then the consent calendar?
right, recognition of
How's that
volunteer services and the mental health support report. We'll put those together. Is that all right?
So I'm recommending the AEF donations first.
Okay. So do we have agreement on those changes to the agenda?
I hope I understand. Please remind me when it's time to pull a consent calendar item.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the agenda as so amended, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Which brings us to the recognition of AEF.
Yes. Well, we have Marcia Skinner here this evening, who has worked diligently to make sure that we haven't missed any of the donations. She has been emailing those donations to the office, and we think we now have an excellent plan to make sure that the donations are recognized quarterly. So AEF has, over the year, donated a tremendous amount of material and money and books to the district. And as you look at the updated, the revised fourth quarter donations and second quarter donations, so fourth quarter 2012, second quarter 2013, and fourth quarter, so those donations will bring us up to date, but you can take a look and see what they do for each one of our schools, particularly what they're doing for our libraries. And we want to acknowledge the wonderful work that they do. So if Marcia would like to come up just for a moment and say a few words.
Has questions. I think, unless the board has questions, I don't have a presentation. I think we finally caught up with the fourth quarter 2012, which was the meat of what we'd done, because that was the field trip grants for over $11,000, the mini grants for over $18,000, and then some of what you're getting now is reflecting what was purchased with that mini grant money, and you want to accept as a donation to the district the physical stuff that the teachers bought with the checks that we made. So things like the set of calculators will remain at the school site. You've asked for the book titles, and you've got that. In addition to the mini grants and field trip grants, this reflects the writer-coach connection, Sally Aldis block grant of $1,000, and then the bassoon that we purchased that was presented at the winter concert. So this catches us up, and unlike last summer where we were tuning pianos, we didn't have a real busy summer this summer except for fundraising. So this catches us up. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank the district and thank Jackie for, I know there was a lot of work to get us all caught up, and there was some misunderstandings that apparently have been worked out, and that's good, because we don't want to upset the folks who bring in so many good things to our district, so thank you.
And additionally, I don't want to lose the opportunity for the public and for the board to see the diversity and the a tremendous diversity that our librarians acquire for their collections. And we don't often get to see what is being acquired in the library. So we certainly owe a lot, I think, to the generosity of AEF, who continually expand our collections, as well as the great work they do for the facilities and our teachers, our new teachers. And as a matter of fact, it might be a good time for us to plug the new teacher orientation.
Which I was speaking with Marcia about. We have that calendared for a Tuesday in September. I told her we're having a hard time this year getting donations for merchants of school supplies. Just one comment on the books. The books don't all go to the library. For instance, on this revision here, these 8 copies of things were something that a reading specialist asked for, and we have a really cute photo of tables of boys there working with those 8 books that were all alike, that were a little fun. The Daily 5 was something a principal asked for, to have her staff have copies to pass around and read. The AP Physics, AP Chem, SAT Prep, and vocabulary books were something that a test prep club that was formed at the high school under the auspices of the counseling office wanted some materials. So we absolutely, the library is one of our focuses, but these went all over the place.
Well, it's
Thank you.
wonderful, and thank you so
Thanks.
much for your dedication to the school district.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank all the people at AEF. We really appreciate it.
Marcia, thank you very much, and thank everybody in AEF, or Albany Education Foundation. They really make life for our students a lot happier.
And thank you, Marcia, for keeping us all up to date, both in public and maybe not.
Being the president of the Test Prep Club, I just want to personally thank you for donating those books to us. They really helped our club members and with all of the stuff we had to study because we're juniors and we want to get into good college. So that really helped us.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now I think we can have the staff report, mental health services, from Joanne Weil.
Yes, but before
This-
we have Joanne give the staff report, we have a resolution. And we'd like to recognize our volunteer mental health clinical supervisors. And I'm wondering if we wouldn't want our board president to read it.
Sure. Why did I read it from? Resolution 2013-14-3, the Albany Unified School District Board of Education, recognition of volunteer mental health clinical supervisors. Whereas the Albany Unified School District has been fortunate to have volunteer mental health interns placed at all of our schools, and whereas mental health interns require supervision and support, and whereas the district is fortunate to have an exceptional faculty of volunteer local clinical supervisors who donate this service on a weekly basis, and whereas the district acknowledges that the program could not exist without their dedication to the community, and whereas the Albany Unified School District and Board of Education wish to recognize and thank the following volunteer mental health supervisors for their time and support: Hortensia Chang, Hope Dean, Monica Frame, Ben Can, Linda Pazderek, Julianne Kowski, Mary Lynn Sasso, Margaret Thompson, Joanne Weil. Now therefore be it resolved that as of the 13th day of August 2013, the Albany Unified School District Board of Education formally acknowledges and extends its profound appreciation to the above named individuals for their volunteer service to the Albany Unified School District. And if we can have a vote on this, all those in favor, raise your hand.
Sure, may I make a comment as well?
Aye.
Sure, okay, so it's passed. Please comment.
So I am convinced that our volunteers do a great deal of service for the success of this mental health program. Some of the people on the list volunteer as well as are compensated. I think if this is going to be a sustainable system, there should be some form of stipend for the volunteers, the ones who are fully volunteers. And I hope we're able to afford to do that sometime in the future.
Well, I would just like to thank everybody who's involved. I remember before we had a mental health program, and the kind of difference it makes and the kind of dedication that folks put in voluntarily. And, you know, I know what your degrees are worth. So thank you very much. Makes a huge difference for our kids.
Sure does.
Yes, thanks. I'd like to echo that. It makes a huge difference. It's very important. And we couldn't do it without all the volunteer work that you give us. So thank you very much.
Thank all of you.
Yes, even though Mary Lynn and myself are compensated for the work we do, there's many volunteer hours that do go into that, plus
That's
the work
true.
of the other supervisors. And tonight we have Monica Frame here, who is one of the original supervisors when we started this program, and the most recent arrival, Mary Lynn Sasso. So we'll pass the appreciation on to the other people in the program, and thank you.
Thank you.
So my report, it's good to be here again with you. And if you remember back in 2010, that was when Marla and I met together after we only had one intern at our schools, at the elementary schools. It was at Ocean View, and that intern was supervised by someone from Berkeley Mental Health. And Marla and I wondered if there was a way to put together some kind of program where Albany Unified School District would be responsible for the work that would be done at the schools, and that we would be able to expand services. So following 2010, we've expanded our interns. We're looking forward to having 8 interns this year and 8 supervisors. We've also expanded to the preschool, so now we have interns at the preschool and all 3 elementary schools. And as was said in the resolution, I think a lot of this is really because we have outstanding faculty, and word is spreading to the East Bay institutions, graduate institutions, about the program, about the faculty, about the didactic seminars that we have. And so word is spreading about the kinds of offerings that we have in Albany. I listed data for you from this last year about just the number of individual students seen, the students seen in groups, the parent contacts that we have, teacher, principal contacts. And this year, what we were able to do is actually offer new directions in terms of our group program, and that was through Mary Lynn Sasso. And we're able now to have interns begin their training with us, where they co-lead a group with her and are with an experienced clinician. And then after they're more comfortable and knowledgeable about group dynamics, then they co-lead groups with each other. And these groups are social skills groups, friendship groups, and also, as you know, the second step curriculum is being introduced next year. And Mary Lynn actually did a pilot at Cornell School with one of the classes, and it was so well received that all the teachers in that grade decided that they wanted to pilot the second step curriculum as well. So we're going to continue that consultation and be part of that new curriculum. We also have a new orientation manual. Our orientation day has been expanded to 2 days, so we're just putting a lot more work into presenting the program and training people right from the beginning. Just so you know what else I've been doing with my 5 hours a week, I wrote the grant for the Albany Trauma Project, and we're in our 4th year with that project as well. And Sally Cohen and interns at the 2 high schools actually lead groups for African American, Asian, and Latino students age 16 and on up. And these are students who've been exposed to traumas, racial discrimination, traumas through immigration, domestic violence. And these groups are so effective that at the end of the year, usually the students say that they want to continue the groups, they don't want them to stop. And Sally really is very talented at bringing people together and making people feel comfortable in talking about very difficult subjects. We also have parent education groups through this grant, and we're able to offer groups in Spanish, Korean, and Mandarin to parents in the Albany School District, and just to help people with acculturation issues, understanding issues that come up in terms of understanding how the school system in their country of origin differs from the American school system. So it's these are very good offerings that we don't really have without this trauma project. And then the third aspect of the program is adult support groups, and because we're asked to incorporate experiences for adults with trauma backgrounds. We have some groups at Golden Gate Fields for the Latino adult population there, and they have done a mural that's in their recreation hall, and that proves to be very supportive of especially the men there who often are not able to leave the racetrack just because of the limitations of their lives and language barriers. Then the third aspect of what I'm doing to stay out of trouble is the critical incident plan. And Mary Lynn and I, along with Diane Marie and Shelley Ball, are working with a consultant who prepares school districts for dealing with critical incidents. And she's worked with the Oakland schools, she's worked with schools throughout the United States, and we've brought her in to help us develop an actual critical incident manual, which we're putting together, and it will go out to all the school sites. And then we're having trainings for all principals and all the mental health staff in dealing with crises that come up, whether it's natural disasters or human-caused disasters, and that'll be happening in September and October. And then finally, I've written a grant with the help of Deborah Brill about the positive school climate, and that is through Alameda County, and we're able, through that grant, to support the work of the BEST teams, the Safe School Ambassadors, and the conflict managers. So that's about it for my 5 hours.
Great, okay. I have a couple of questions and comment from Pat, but why don't you start, Alan, if you have something you want to.
First of all, thanks for a very thorough report on a much-needed and very successful program. So far, the needs are huge, but you're making a great effort to address those. On page 88 of our packet, I'm not sure what number it is of your report, page number of your report, but the meaningful participation is a measure of some of the successes, and that's only at 39%. It's improvement over the previous year, but it seems like a fairly low figure.
Oh, yes, for the Healthy Kids Survey, that
Right.
this is under the Positive School Climate Report for this last year. Yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement.
Yeah, I'm just curious, you have any insight into what's causing that?
You know, probably, Marcia, do you have any thoughts about this? I know you collect all the data from the Healthy Kids Survey and study it and sift through it.
Okay, we'll work on it. And then you mentioned that we need a new trauma project coordinator. Is someone left that position, or?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
What page?
Oh, I just took notes, but on item 6, goals for the upcoming year, a new coordinator for the safe and.
Oh, under Positive School Climate Report. Yeah, because of Deborah Brill's
Okay.
change in positions, a new coordinator is going to be hired in the position that she was in charge of.
And then how many boys participate in the McGregor AHS trauma program?
I don't have that. Well, wait. Youth support groups, total of 40 students in the support groups.
But when I look at-
24 youth. Yeah, I don't have a breakdown by male, female.
Okay, I just have a feeling that boys don't participate enough. Through no fault of yours, but it's hard getting boys, I think, to participate in these kinds of things. Is that true?
I think actually Sally's done a remarkable job
think she has,
recruiting
too.
people. Yeah, I mean, she's just outstanding.
And then the Latino group disbanded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think she's going to renew efforts to, we have a new intern coming in, and I think that she will be able to actually recruit more students this coming year.
And you gave us, I think, I had a question from the report about further details on the critical incident plan. So the incidents are like a major disaster or?
A combination of either natural disasters or human-caused disasters. So it could be earthquakes, fires under the natural disaster, human-caused suicide, gun violence.
Okay. And then for a bit of information, I like that concept of backstretch families for Golden Gate Fields. And I'd be curious to find out more about what that is like. How successful is it? How well did they support each other in this backstretch families? We've had students at McGregor who've been from families at the racetrack, and they get some good support from their families. I think all we can do to support that and continue that is for the good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very close-knit community
It
and
is.
also a very traumatized community. And especially as some of the members get older, and are looking at finishing their work there, we're looking at, what next for them.
And if they're having kids from those situations coming into our schools, we need to support the families as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron?
I'll pass.
Okay, Pat Lowe had a question, or a compound question. Would you please briefly summarize the new social emotional curriculum, and is it being implemented across elementary schools?
It is. And Marla, do you want to say more about that?
Yes, right now we're in a pilot stage. The social emotional curriculum is something we needed to add beyond the BEST program, because remember, the BEST is a positive school climate, but that we actually need to teach an actual curriculum that encompasses more than that. And Second Steps was one of the programs reviewed and agreed upon by teachers to pilot. And as a matter of fact, we've had to hold them back a little bit. Cornell was ready to have the entire school pilot, but we want to keep this, to the original plan, which was a pilot this year and adoption next.
Could you maybe give us a brief description of what Second
Sure.
Step has?
Yeah, I'd be
Or
glad to do
about?
that. It's a curriculum that's used in kindergarten through middle school, and each kit or each curriculum has the same 3 units. The first unit is on empathy, and it teaches about understanding feelings, how you know from your body what you're feeling, how you can tell what somebody else is feeling, perspective taking, that type of thing is in the first unit. The second unit is on impulse control and problem solving. And with that is a whole series of steps that the kids are taught of how to think about a problem. So they want to think of a number of solutions and then evaluate each solution. Is it fair? Is it safe? How will people feel? Will it work? And then based on those questions, they determine what they're going to try and do. The third unit is always anger management. And that, again, teaches about, how do you calm yourself down? How do you, take time, think about things? How do you talk about it? That kind of thing. So it's an excellent curriculum. I've used it in Richmond, Oakland, and it's not didactic. It's one where the kids really participate. There's a lot of role plays that the kids do, and they really enjoy it, and so they become engaged with the program and really do learn, I feel.
And the plan is to implement by teaching staff.
Yes,
Well, and we have a lot of enthusiasm.
we do.
Excellent.
Excellent, thank you. And then Pat's comment is, thank you, Joanne, for the breadth and depth of the services you have organized and both the funding and innovative programming you have brought to serve so many sectors of our community. And she has a suggestion: you should really consider giving presentations on how you designed this program and how you worked to secure funding for our small district, maybe with Marla at an administrators conference. I think it is a worthwhile model to disseminate to others.
Thank you.
And just from me, I thank you very much for all the work you do for the district. It makes a huge difference.
Thank you, Joanne.
All right, now according to our revised agenda, that brings us to our personnel order, which has been pulled from the consent.
So I was asking if we could pull one of the items from the personnel and order and treat it separately, and maybe you can make an introduction?
Yes, we are very pleased this evening to have our new assistant principal of Albany High School, Kevin Goines. Kevin, come on up to the podium, and I know that the board would love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'll just take a minute to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Kevin Goines. I come to you originally from Los Angeles, where I graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles, and spent many years working in the Los Angeles Unified School District, as well as also in private school. Moving up to the Bay Area, I've taught in West Contra Costa Unified School District. Most recently held the position of Associate Dean of Students at a small charter school, and I just want to say I'm really excited and enthusiastic about joining the staff at Albany High School and continuing the success of our student body there.
And from what I understand, and just hearing a little bit about you, we're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And welcome to Albany Unified, and welcome to Albany High School.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
So I look forward to seeing you at some site council meetings, PTA meetings, and getting to know you more.
Happy to see you. I'll be there.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, so having pulled that item from the consent, we need to vote on it. Do we have a motion to approve the personnel assignment order?
Well, the pulled item, I move that we welcome Mr. Goines and accept his appointment.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Second. I moved. You second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
All in favor?
Say
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now you can.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, and that brings us to the consent. Alan, you had something you wanted to discuss on the consent?
Yeah, I wanted to pull the minutes on page 24. I also had the personnel Kevin Goines issue, but we took care of that. And a couple of warrant items, item 3B.
Okay, you don't want to pull them, you want to comment on
I
them?
want to comment on them. Well, yes.
Okay, and Pat had a comment on item 3C. So.
And I have a question on the minutes and a very brief question on the warrants.
All right, so let's start with Alan and the minutes.
Okay, at our last meeting, we dealt with the issue of education options, and we had a number of people from the public come and speak. One of their concerns was that they didn't feel sufficiently informed about the issues of the blending of McGregor to the high school. So the board essentially voted to postpone that quick blending and postpone it for a year. Then I think the public would like to see more information about what the blending really means and what it means in terms of operations and budgets at McGregor during this transition.
Alan, is this a comment on the minutes, or is this something you would like to put on the agenda for a future meeting?
Well, I can do that as well at the end of the meeting.
But is there a change you want to the minutes?
It's a comment.
Okay, well all right, so you're not suggesting a change to the minutes. So if you
No,
want
it's just a
something
comment.
added to the agenda, then that should go at the
End of the meeting, that's
Okay.
fine. But this is the way of background comment. The warrants,
Well, since you're talking about the minutes, why not?
Ron had something on the
Okay.
minutes.
sure.
So on page 23, I'm just, well, there's two things in the minutes. There were a bunch of typos, and I didn't have time to check through them and write them up, so I'll try to do that unless you've done it already.
You might have different ones than I did, so
Yeah.
just send them on to
You
Jack.
said them, okay. On page 23, I'm not sure that I agree with the wording of the the fourth paragraph. Director Brown stated that many questions were raised and reviewed. That's accurate. The committee concurred that it is doable but not easy. I don't believe that's actually what the committee had to say as a whole. I'll speak for myself, and maybe I'm speaking for Alan as well, because there was no concurrence. So I think I'd like to...
What page are you on now?
I'm on page 23. So there's a paragraph that I just want to pull and maybe try to rewrite.
Okay, which paragraph is this now?
Just below the middle, starts with Director Brown stated that many questions.
Were raised and reviewed the committee's work to date regarding this.
So I'd just like to strike that and try to reword it.
Do you want to give us a paragraph? Could you
Yeah.
send it to us?
Yeah.
We could, do you want it incorporated in this, or should we strike this and rewrite?
No, strike it and rewrite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we approve the minutes, then we'll approve it without this paragraph, and then we'll have to approve the new paragraph when you've written it.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
Anything else?
That's it on this.
Okay, then Alan, the warrants.
On page 58, the Golden State Labor Bill of I forget about, anyways, the Golden State Labor Bill paid of $19,200. What was
Right,
that
and
for?
Board Member Lowe had the same question, and I
Yeah.
did respond to her. It is, when you have a large construction project, you're required by law to have it audited and looked at to make sure that you comply with prevailing wage, labor compliance, et cetera, et cetera. And then they in turn have to assure the state that we have complied with all labor laws.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Alan,
Yeah,
On the warrants?
on the warrants?
well, I can hold off until we get to page 82 on the contract for the gardener at ACC, at the Children's Center.
So I'll go on,
Okay.
on page 63 or 7 of 25. I just was curious, and I didn't send this on, which I apologize for. Sound and signal install access points at Cornell. What's an access point?
That's a wireless point.
Oh, okay, got it. I told you I'd be brief.
Okay, that's it?
Well, on the consent calendar, it's both in the warrants and on the consent calendar as well, the contract for the garden service at ACC. I want to support that very strongly. I think that does a lot for the kids that are there as well as for the
Yep.
for the food service program. Are these current charges? Do we?
This is the same, we approved a contract last year, so this is the
So this
contract
is-
13,
So the
14.
contract are going to be approving on the consent calendar as a continuation of an existing
Right.
contract? Thank you.
That's the one for the chef. And,
Good. Services have been.
Yes.
Yeah, the
She does
services have been
a
great.
great job.
Okay, and Pat had a comment on that same one, which is wonderful project for all involved. She said, might I suggest someone, perhaps Jackie, check in with ACC about when might be a good time to take photos, planting or harvesting? I don't know if permission is needed to photograph the students for nice PR and documentation of the project. So
We'll do it.
can we follow that up?
Absolutely.
Great, terrific. Okay, any other comments, questions on the consent?
So if there are none, I'll move the consent with the changes made.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jackie, can we have a roll call on the consent, please?
Student Board Member Lee,
Present?
Yes or no?
Oh, yes, sure.
Member
It's
Maris,
okay, is it first?
Sure.
Sure, proceed.
I mean, I.
I mean, I do that all the time. So don't-
Sorry, it's going to be much better next time.
let's see, do I say aye?
As soon as
Member
your
Maris?
name is called.
Member
Aye.
Maris,
Aye.
Member Rosenbaum,
Aye.
President Black,
I need to abstain on checks number 502-79814, 502-80137, 502-85115, and 502-85692. Other than that, aye. Thank you. And I believe, Peter, that finally brings us to you.
Well, good evening. I'm Peter Parenti, and the proud new Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And this microphone is permanently on, so it's going to be a little bit of a jostling. As I was trained on how to turn it off and on, he said, that's off. And that's on. So is this okay, the audit?
Yeah, it's great.
All right. I have a presentation tonight on a Common Core Systems Implementation Plan. It's a draft version of our plan that that I've written over the summer and starting to present to teachers in our summer workshop, starting with presentations to the executive cabinet and to principals today, actually. So I'm looking forward to getting a lot more feedback. The visual up here represents kind of the major components of our plan and the ways in which I think we can link this to the nature of exploration and the idea that we're going into bold new places where many actually have gone already before. So I introduced tonight not only a draft systems implementation plan, but a new way to present. And so if the software, if you have feedback even about the way it's presented, please talk to me about this presentation software. I know you've received a copy in your board packet last week. In order to present that to you in advance, we printed that or put it on electronic version in a PDF format. So you've got it kind of a slide by slide, but this one moves. So that I couldn't project to you until now. So we start with an image of a child's work, spacecraft launching into outer space, and a man who might be walking on the moon there. As you may recall, back in 1969, I'll turn this down a little bit. You'll remember this is Apollo 11's launch. This was when we landed the first humans on the moon. It happened on July 20th, 1969. I was 6 weeks old. My mother says she remembers watching it on TV, and the world was riveted. We had sent spacecraft into outer space, but we had never, and we had sent people into outer space, but this was the first time that we were going to actually land on the moon and grab something and bring it back. Now, I'm sure many important things have happened since then, but the Common Core standards are a big one of those. And in the 1990s, we remember the accountability movement. It's still with us. We have a national movement, but not a federal one. It was back in 1996 when the National Governors Association and corporate leaders and state superintendents came together. They founded what was called Achieve.org. It was bipartisan. The idea was to raise academic standards and graduation requirements and improve assessments and strengthen accountability in all 50 states. That was the initial movement for Common Core state standards, 1996. This was only a few short years after each state had actually adopted their own sets of standards for curriculum and instruction, sets of standards that really riveted and changed the ways in which we hold ourselves accountable to teaching. The problem was that each of the 50 states developed their own sets. So I want to reiterate that this movement we have is national but not federal, not driven by our federal government or by our federal Office of Education. There is a big picture why. The Common Core standards have a lot to offer. They are designed to be robust and relevant to the real world. They reflect the knowledge and skills that are needed for success in college and careers and successful participation in the global economy. A better way to actually present that is to show you this short video clip.
Like it or not, life is full of measuring sticks. How smart we are, how fast we are, how well we can, compete. But up until now, it's been pretty hard to tell how well kids are competing in school and how well they're going to do when they get out of school. We like to think that our education system does that. But when it comes to learning what they really need to be successful after graduation, is a girl in your neighborhood being taught as much as her friend over in the next one? Is a graduating senior in, say, St. Louis as prepared to get a job as the graduate in Shanghai? Well, it turns out the answer to both of these questions is no. Because for years, states have been setting different standards for what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. That's making it too hard to know if our kids are really doing well enough overall, and if they can really compete for a job someday. What we really need are clear goals. That's where the Common Core state standards come in. They're like a total sea change in education. Consistent, strong, clear benchmarks for English language arts and math. Here's how it works. You can think of kindergarten through 12th grade like a giant staircase. Each step is a skill your child needs to learn before stepping up to the next one. But right now, too many kids aren't really confident with like 2 + 2 before they have to move on to 2 × 2. We need more focus on the skills that help them move up the stairs, or they can slip up and fall behind. And there's another problem. What if everyone's stairs were made at different heights? Well, here we go again. They are. So, a boy in Seattle who's rocking an A in English literature could be getting a C on his Chicago friend's staircase. Oops. We need to create consistent steps in education too. So first, each standard creates a landing on the staircase, a stop along the way as your child heads toward high school graduation. Each stop is a chance for every parent and teacher to focus on the skills their students are supposed to know at that step, no matter the zip code, language, or race. And more importantly, each standard makes sure all students are learning what they need to know to get to graduation and beyond. Because something like counting to 100 leads to understanding dollars and cents, which eventually leads to understanding how to manage a budget. Secondly, the standards are consistent from school to school, and they match up against international standards too. Now we know how we're doing compared to just about everyone. So even though local communities will still design their own curriculum, with the same rules, everybody can compete on the same kind of staircase. But standards aren't learning. That's why we need teachers, parents, and students to help make that happen by working together to help kids meet these standards. The world's getting more and more competitive every day. But now, when our kids get to the top of their staircase, they can have way more options on where their life goes from there. Clear goals, confident, well-prepared students. That's the Common Core state standards.
So in the state of California, we've been provided a template now to use, which was just published in April of this year, to put together a package of strategies that'll help us and our systems move forward towards the Common Core standards and their implementation. These strategies are numbered 1 through 7, and they relate to teaching, learning, and assessing. They relate to community involvement and communication. And so what I've got in the rest of the presentation is a series of slides that kind of focus on the key steps that Albany Unified can take. But before I continue, I do want to reiterate that we're not unprepared for this work. Our teachers know the standards very well. Our teachers have worked really hard already bridging with CCSS and CST crosswalks. What are the old standards asking? What are the new standards asking? And where do they match up? We have excellent and rich curriculum. What we have coming, though, is a series of new assessments. And so in order to continue to prepare and orient ourselves towards student success, this plan is going to help bridge that area where teachers have done such good work already and where teachers need to continue to expand what's offered in the classroom so that kids can be successful. And one of the core strategies, number 1, is facilitating, let me get beyond that, facilitating high-quality professional development. And we've got 5 key strategies for that area. Facilitating summer workshops to review standards and curriculum. To date, we've had a secondary math workshop in the second week of July. We had last week an elementary math workshop, and this week I'm running 2 concurrent workshops. One is elementary English language arts, and another is 6th grade English language arts. Next week we have one day with 6th grade for math. And then I wish summer could keep going because the workshops, I believe, are going very well. But summer's running out and the school starts next week. So facilitating summer workshops to review standard and curriculum is one of the strategies we're using. Another strategy is to identify, hire, and train teachers on special assignment. We've got a menu of services that teachers on special assignment can provide our classroom teachers and our school sites. Focus areas in English language arts and math, and running the gamut from kindergarten through 12th grade. We have planning for 3 staff development days to include an emphasis on Common Core state standards. Where we have 2 days up front in the school year. We have another day in October, and I believe another day coming in March. Another area of high-quality learning is really the collaboration time that teachers have together. So Wednesday collaboration meetings will have an emphasis on CCSS implementation, Common Core State Standards. We're working with principals this week and last week to articulate a series of Wednesdays that respect both what the sites need to get the work of the school done, but also what teachers need when they have collaboration time together. And another area that's going to come up more than once is really a partnership with colleges and universities. In professional development, this matters because our colleges and universities do provide us with curricular resources, strategies, and classroom coaching. We currently have a program at the middle school and the high school from UC Berkeley that focuses on science instruction. People from UC Berkeley's science department come to our teachers with computer technology and software to help bridge the gap between the ways we teach, the ways we assess, and what we have going on in our classrooms. We have teacher prep programs at the universities where all new teachers coming in as student teachers and new hires are already trained in Common Core State Standards. I spoke with a new hire at our high school during the summer, and she said at San Francisco State, the master teachers and the coursework throughout her entire year of pre-service was focused on Common Core State Standards. They were not being trained anymore on California standards. We have a question about student admissions, because of course this is going to influence student admissions when students graduate from high school, especially in the ways we articulate a student's math transcript. And of course, curriculum design. So besides the science program, one of the key authors for the mathematics programs, the ways we assess math in Common Core, happens to also be a member of the mathematics department at UC Berkeley. And so we do have leaders. We're very fortunate that we live in such an urban, local community with lots of universities around us. Another area, it's my side notes, another area is to provide instructional resources. This I want to couch by saying that we have a rich bank of resources in-house and resources that are coming available to us from across the nation. State departments of education, teacher groups, professional development groups, curriculum design, publishers. At this pivotal point in our history, they're finally able to write things that apply to more than one state. So for example, an English language arts textbook company doesn't have to write something that only goes with Texas standards and then rewrite it to go with California standards. People can write good lessons and unit plans and share them with states across the country. And what we've noticed happening is that many teachers have great things that they already have, but with new technologies and new methods of collaborating. For example, this presentation tonight is public domain. It's up on the website. Anybody can find it if they Google it. With new ways of collaborating and sharing, our curricular resources are coming to us at lower costs, as I'm noticing, and they're also coming to us from multiple places in the country. So it's a fortunate time, but it makes for a tricky time. So let me go through these four, and then I'll talk to you about what curriculum adoptions are looking like in California right now. We have current supplemental instructional materials and core programs in grades K-12. And this is just a sampling of curricular resources. Being a writer in grades K-5 at all three sites, and the writing assessments in grades K-12. We currently have 2 that we use at the elementary, 1 at the middle school, and in the Department of English they have at least 1 at every grade level. We have a lot more of these, but our job now is to review them again and make the bridge to Common Core. Another area of curricular resources to pilot the use of new supplemental instructional materials. These are some samples. The Mathematics Assessment Resource System, as part of Silicon Valley's Math Initiative Consortium. We have great resources on units and lessons that are already aligned to these standards and again are of no cost to us, much outside of duplicating pieces of paper or the computer that the teacher needs access to be able to get to these resources. I know that in the last 2 years we've purchased, this is a program called English 3D in 7th grade that exercises oral language skills, communication skills, critical thinking. And again, this is what we can call a supplemental, not a core adopted material, but being a writer is getting a lot of attention and getting stronger. We have a job to review the curriculum frameworks from the California Department of Education. The mathematics frameworks have been written and published for review. The frameworks are kind of the how behind the standards. So they'll give example problems, example lessons. They'll describe in a narrative form why that standard matters. What we don't have yet from the CDE are curriculum frameworks for English language arts. They anticipate publishing those in 2014. And so these two core bodies of instruction, they're kind of one ahead of the other right now in development at the state level. There's, of course, a link there, and to review them, you can go by grade level and to see what they're saying. We'd like to assess existing instructional materials and supplement them. Our librarians, the internet, primary source documents, materials on the CDE's supplemental instructional materials list, in order to continue to bridge what's already working well with what we know is going to need to work better. It's about existing instructional materials and supplementals. California is publishing a list of supplemental materials. What I'm noticing is, though, they're bridging us to other states as well. Second strategy is to, a third strategy is to develop and transition to Common Core state standard aligned assessment systems. So it's as much about teaching and how we teach and what we teach, but it's also about how we're going to find out if it's working. And there are 5 areas. Monitor the CDE's, California Department of Education's Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium webpage. I'd like all staff and students to have experience with these new assessments. The practice tests are already available, so teachers and students can get a feel for what it's like to take a test on a laptop computer. The basic skills of scrolling and trackpadding and typing in and clicking to the next question are basic test-taking skills now that we have to teach to our children. Those practice tests are up and available for now. We also need to research ideas on how formative assessment practices and professional development work. And we have a plan in place to exercise short cycles of inquiry so that we're not just dependent on an end-of-the-year summative exam to see if our teaching is working.
And could you just quickly speak to that in terms of how you think the TSAs will be a part of that process at the elementary?
Sure. I have some notes on that if you don't mind. I'll go to those notes. TSAs at the elementary level, actually the 4 TSAs that we've proposed.
Oh, I guess in the math and the secondary math.
Yeah, let me see where I put it. I put these here. These are like the cheat notes, but again, it's public. So, there are 2 things that are going to be implemented when teachers in special assignment are with us. These are some of the services that teachers can choose to use with teachers. One-on-one planning, coaching, and reflecting, co-teaching lessons to share experiences with these Common Core state standards-based strategies, maybe observations based on teacher choice using pre- and post-conversation model, but not evaluative observations. Teachers on special assignment can search for and provide materials for Common Core state standards-based lessons in math and ELA. Maybe the teacher on special assignment would be asked to teach a class while the core teacher goes across the hall or down the other end of the school site to observe one of their colleagues teaching a lesson. We are going to ask our teachers on special assignment to facilitate grade level team meetings. Maybe they're going to be facilitating some staff meetings if it's directly related. Serving as an instructional leadership team member. Each of our school sites has an instructional leadership team, and teachers on special assignment will be asked to serve on those. Teachers on special assignment will be asked to network and explore ideas with others in district, and in the region. One of the more common models right now that districts are looking at are teachers on special assignment. The work is in the classroom, and we need classroom practitioners and collaboration time.
Okay. And how are we paying for them?
The state of California has proposed to the districts that they're going to allocate a single amount of money based on ADA, and that amount of money would come to us, I'm assuming this year, but it's good for a 24-month period. So it's kind of a set aside, almost specific budget for specific actions related to Common Core state standards implementation.
So is that the Common Core money we've
Yes.
been talking about before? Okay, for 2 years?
Correct.
So I saw something from the superintendent about 4 full-time teachers on special assignment. Is that what
We're looking
Currently
at
budgeting?
3 elementary TSAs that will serve both in math and language arts. A .8 TSA at this point in math to serve secondary grades 6 through 12. And 2, at this point, teacher hourly stipends for language arts at the secondary. We're still struggling since the CDA has not published the frameworks yet for English language arts. We don't want to jump too rapidly, but both Principal Brill and Principal Barone feel that they'd like to handle the language arts through stipend rather than TSA.
So that's it. I had a little trouble adding everything up. What was the total that you just described?
3.8.
3.8?
We have a question from Karen. Can you come up to the podium so we can, our TV audience can hear you?
You want to
Carrie
reference
Dunnigan.
anything that just tell me where to reference. If you have
Yeah, actually, that would be great. The the
Teacher on special
TSA
assignment.
jobs, yeah.
This one? Okay.
Yeah, if you could forward that to Kim and I, that would be great. Kim and me, I guess, that would be great. I guess the question in relation to that is, I didn't notice anything on there about behavioral management strategies and working with principals as assistants, even though that was described to our staffs. Does that mean that that aspect of the job has been changed, that they will no longer be assisting principals in those types of,
Yes.
great.
Not that we don't need the help, but we have, the job is so large that to distract our TSA work to support the administrative function at this point in time is we think would detract from what we know we need to do with Common Core.
Oh, no, we totally, agree with that. It was more along the line that it would be, related use of funds.
Yeah, I mean, the funds are directly going to Common Core, correct? And it shouldn't be going to administrative duties.
Right,
Yeah.
although they are administrative duties when you start talking about leading staff meetings and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of definition, that we're not going to be suspending kids from school.
Alan?
That kind of thing.
So at this stage, we have a really strong sense that the 3.8 FTEs is going to be sufficient. We know,
Well, let's get started and see how
Okay.
far we get.
Well, and how much money do we need for any more?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're certainly within budget on Common Core, thanks to some reserves that we set aside and purchases along the way. Our technology component is well ahead of many other districts, perhaps most districts. And the curriculum is quite interesting as we see it being unfolded. It seems to be the cloud. You pull resources out of the cloud, and it's not necessarily a hardback book for teachers. So there are no real curriculum adoptions right now.
But I'd like to see links to that. I haven't
Yes,
really
it's
seen them.
fascinating.
And then, and thanks to Brian as far as the technology, I've been watching them in place. But as far as links to this material, that'd be great.
Well, yes, and we could spend the next 5 years exploring. What's really wonderful and also challenging at the same time is that we have 50 states, or almost 50, that have adopted the Common Core state standards, and many of them adopted much earlier than California. And so we've got lots of resources that are coming available to us from other states. And I highlight 2, New York State and Washington, D.C. For example, Washington, D.C. is where I pulled the video on the Common Core state standards, and they've got an entire bank of resources for their teachers in English language arts and math. What's missing, and maybe that's fine because it slows things down, is that California suspended its curriculum adoption cycle program 2008 because of the fiscal crisis. This was a system in which publishers would present to the State Board of Education and run cycles of piloting at sample key districts around the state to understand how different populations would respond to that work. And the State Board of Education, after final review, it usually take a couple of years, would publish a list of multiple approved curriculums. And then districts would receive specific amounts of funding on about a 7-year cycle. Every 7th year you'd choose English, and then every other math, science, social studies. We would then, as a district, come in and grab from that bank, and the publishers would provide us with the free resources, and we'd do a good job of going through another year's cycle. They suspended that in 2008 and haven't published any recent curriculum since. And they said they were going to start that cycle up again in 2013. If they were to have started in 2013, we'd be waiting for 2015 to get curriculum. They haven't started it, and we don't have time to wait. The teachers in-house have great stuff. The CCSS standards have been written. The frameworks for math have been published. And other states have great stuff going on. And internally, too. California's got good stuff, but we're not waiting for the State Department of Education. My assumption and my recollection is they're an underfunded, small, severely cut agency over the last 10 years, and they haven't recuperated yet. So,
I mean, that's my concern. The state is notoriously poor at supporting the programs they mandate to the districts and the cities. And
So, what you see here is a new approach that we will be looking at, that teachers will be looking at resources that's available to them across the 50 states.
Yeah,
And
I
then we
really-
will be making agreements on what types of supplemental materials that we would like to use, but it'll be teacher-driven.
Okay, maybe we can get on with the presentation.
yeah, let me go to the next number 4 now. So I'm kind of getting used to this presentation style too. It's not like PowerPoint where you just kind of flip through back and forth. So did I, the aligned systems, I think we got through to this slide. Review existing quizzes, unit exams, and end of the course exams, the stuff we already do well, and assess it for higher level thinking, constructed responses, synthesis, and collaboration. Some of the new features about Common Core State Standards are the expectation that kids can work collaboratively together to produce a result. Higher level thinking skills is described by Webb's depth of knowledge, a more mature development since Bloom's taxonomy was developed. Another area for us to focus on is to generate and implement a formative practices plan. We have these in the district. They are working really well, and it's my job this year to align how do we describe this? So today, for example, when I presented this piece, one of the principals said, we do all of that, we just kind of call it something else. And so a formative assessment practices plan includes learning targets. We've used the term standards. Criteria for success in Albany High School rubrics. Collecting evidence and documenting evidence is really about performance-based exams, performance-based assessments in the classroom.
how much do you think of that we're already doing? My sense, and having attended classes, we do a lot of that already.
Yeah, we do it. We do it really well.
I think so too.
Right. Next one is to promote local awareness. The assessment transition will surprise some of our community members and parents who aren't in education every day, watching and learning. And so when school districts and the state of California start publishing the ways in which they hold our schools accountable, not individual students so much as how do we measure then school progress? We've got to keep up to date on how they're going to do that. What is API going to mean? How is the federal government going to keep up with the ways they tie federal dollars to our school success? What is academic yearly progress now? And so we're kind of all learning and moving it forward together, but there are some things we do need to communicate to our community as we learn them.
And Peter and I will be going out to PTAs, school site councils, and beginning to educate the public, because there are some major changes in the assessment system that parents, I think, need to know about in advance of our taking those assessments.
And site councils, at least the high school, I think, are well aware of this, what's coming.
Yeah, the assessment programs in-house are strong and healthy, and we need to continue to kind of raise our own awareness to align them. But a report from the state directly to the parent is going to look a lot different than it has in the past 10 years. The STAR report that tells you whether your child is advanced or proficient or basic, those terms are going away.
Oh.
They're looking at multiple ways to report to parents about how their child is doing, both on the content standard and on a college and career readiness track. And that rating for college and career readiness starts at 3rd grade. So we have to inform ourselves, and we will have to inform our communities. We have the newly adopted Aries Analytics software. This will house and be our vehicle to which we refer to student achievement data. We are disconnecting quickly from Data Director and moving to Aries Analytics. This is a good feature. We do have training planned for the first 2 staff development days coming up, and it's a matter of aligning a software system that's also used for attendance, it's also used for student data management, but now our assessment can go together with that software. This is strategy 4, collaborating with parents, guardians, early childhood, and expanded learning communities. And this strategy really focuses on what we're doing with preschool age children and how we're articulating developmental benchmarks to be ready for kindergarten. This is focused with both our in-staff, but also our families and local providers for childcare, because actually we don't provide most of the early childhood education for our kids before they come to kindergarten. They come from other sources. So sharing resources with parents and families and local education community, utilizing existing structures like parent meetings and back to school nights, parent newsletters, news releases to the local editor of the local paper. I've worked with Susan on these. She says, I can help you with all 5 of these. I have back to school night, I have parent groups, I have a parent newsletter. And so she's willing to come out and kind of roadshow with me to some of the other schools that do this. Utilizing what's called the Infant Toddler Learning Developmental Foundations and the California Preschool Learning Foundations. These are benchmarked kind of assessment measures that start at about 2.8 years old, and they can inform the development and continuous improvement of curriculum and developmentally appropriate CC-assigned assessment practices. You know, I kind of, to wrap my head around this, I talked with kindergarten teachers last week in the math program, and I asked them, does that make any sense? And they said, yeah, that makes sense. On our report card, we have to report whether a child in kindergarten can count up to 30. That's the benchmark standard for the end of the year. And these kids, some of them are coming in being able to count to 100 or be able to count to 50 by Christmas. So there's a way in which early childhood education is actually ahead of us. And when we accept the child, we can assess for that kind of a skill. Build partnerships with external stakeholders. I'm revising this quickly to learn. The external stakeholders include those agencies which support us directly, but also private early childhood centers in our local community where our parents send their 3- and 4-year-olds. We'd like to provide them additional resources and support so that we know what they're doing and they know what we're waiting for when they come to us at 5 years old. And then, of course, partnerships with regional external stakeholders so that we can provide additional resources to those expanded learning opportunities. This is as much about all children as it is about early childhood, but our examples include Writers Coach Connection, an entire networked group of people who are highly trained to coach kids on how to write well. Our AEF, as you've seen tonight, really has a hand in providing additional curriculum resources and books. School Care, YMCA, the University of California at Berkeley's WISE program, Computer Science Education Department, and teacher credentialing programs. Guiding strategy 5 is to collaborate with post-secondary and business communities. And those include to review programs and materials that reflect the new definitions of college and career readiness. These include Common Core state standards and the promotion and awareness of these new definitions. We have the participation in events that are introducing the new Career Tech Ed model curriculum standards. I believe we have 16 areas, I think it's 16 now, in Career Tech Ed. And if possible, we'd like to explore the development of new courses or lesson plans and work-based experiences that include the demonstration and application of the revised Career Tech Ed model curriculum standards. Remember, though, this is nice work, and we're looking forward to it. It doesn't have a smarter balanced assessment kind of coming to us in March or in March of 2015. So it's going to be extremely important work, but it's not assessment driven yet. Another area is to identify the availability of businesses and industry resources for targeted 21st century skills as they relate to the Common Core state standards. This comes to us because it was the National Governors Association who were influenced by business leaders in all of their states saying that our public schools were misaligned in providing us with high school graduates who were ready for either a career or for college. And so it's a good bridge to build. And then, of course, I'm presenting information at the Albany's Chamber of Commerce, the City of Albany, and other civic organizations, inviting business leaders to speak to students in grades 6 through 12, elaborating on maybe 2 or 3 specific standards and their role in possible careers. I took this directly from the suggested language from the CDE. They did provide us a nice template, and that makes sense to me. We have that resource here in Albany. Our local connections with schools and businesses is strong. Sorry, I'm out of numbering on these. I think this is number 6. Resources. Time, I believe, is the most precious. Human beings and money. It's kind of what these are about. Time is what I'm hearing from staff and teachers about. Gosh, this is time. This is mostly time. Identify state and federal funds currently available for use in Common Core state standard systems. We do have the Common Core state standard designated budget allocation, but Title II is a professional development federal application that can be used to align to these issues as well. Utilize Title, there it is, sorry, I'm ahead of myself here. Informing program staff of appropriate use of these federal funds in purchasing these CCSS aligned supplemental instructional materials. Since I've started really digging my heels into this work in July, I really am finding this to be refreshing because most of those that are instructionally aligned are free. They're public domain, already authored by public domain dollars in several state departments of education. I'm finding publishers scrambling, publishers who want to earn money, they're scrambling to sell us what are called bridge materials. Don't throw your old math book out yet. We've got a worksheet on how to make that work, how to force it in, but you need to give us a check. So we're being very critical and hesitant on buying stuff yet.
Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm. And then we need to develop a detailed fiscal analysis of these costs associated with CCSS systems implementation. I've begun the process, but we are really just, days and weeks behind whatever the State Department can provide us, whatever guidance we can get from their business offices. The governor's budget was approved in the end of June, and we're about 6 weeks away from that date, so it's coming fast and furious. Reviewing and revising existing local education agencies, that's us, you. Our documents and our web pages to align to Common Core and assessing the core curriculum. So that's time on the school board's part. And finally, and what I would say most importantly is really communication. This is our final strategy that they provide guidance on, that we know good work happens when we communicate well. So really web resources are a way to become smarter and smarter in the work. CCSS implementation, they have significant milestones, timelines we can refer to. Are we on track? The interactive tool to help us remain apprised of the latest developments. Communicating is also about collaborating with and eliciting feedback from stakeholders, teachers, parents, students, school leaders, and refining these strategies. It's about disseminating information regarding these systems. We have these at our disposal now, but as I'm learning, networking using shared sites like this presentation software, or like another one where teachers collaborate and build these pages of all of my favorite websites, and then they share that page out with another teacher, has become very powerful. But to communicate in our more traditional methods, we have staff meetings and school site council meetings, PTA and PTSA, our newsletters, our local school board meetings, and letters to the published press. And we also need to monitor the CDE's websites. They have a Common Core State Standards website and a Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium webpage. I'm not only reviewing these regularly and sharing the information, but in these particular websites, they actually ask you to become part of listserv. If you have responsibilities as an employee of a school or as a leader in a school, I advocate that we get into those listservs. So they then push out on a weekly basis the top headlines and the latest developments. And those are, again, the California Department of Education Common Core State Standards and the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium web pages. So we haven't landed yet, we haven't walked on the moon yet, but it's possible. And that would be the CCSS implementations plan in a nutshell, you might say. So thank you very much. Questions?
I've got some questions from Pat. If you want to hear those first, and then
Sure.
you can gather.
I have some as well.
Okay, she says, first, thank you, Peter, for this clear and thorough overview of an implementation plan. I particularly found valuable the specific actions sections. Fundamental, of course, to the success of this implementation plan in Albany and in the state is the buy-in and effective education of teachers. What is the particular strategy for involving teachers and leaders over time? For example, how many teachers in special assignment will there be at each grade or school level? I think we already answered that. What short and long-term role will they play in leadership and implementation? What is the thinking or rationale for this model, and why is it the most effective way to go and to use our resources? That's
I think you answered all those already.
I think one of the things that we didn't answer but could answer really quickly about why is this effective, particularly for Albany. There are 3 ways to get this type of work done. The first is to pull teachers out of the classroom during the school year. And we have found that that really negatively impacts student learning, as well as the burden of teachers creating lesson plans, the double burden, a lesson plan for the sub, and then going out and doing this critical work. The summer work, although it has been phenomenal, I think the learning that has occurred, it has been very difficult for us to get one teacher from each grade level, from each school, to attend these summer workshops. It was a grand experiment, but we just couldn't get there. We have to have teachers engaged in the classroom, and the way to do that, we feel, is to take a colleague, not necessarily an expert from outside the district, and to build the capacity, grade level, teacher by teacher, and their collaboration is essential. And so the TSA model seems to be the most effective way for us to implement, new curriculum and to be able to effectively get teacher buy-in, because it's really going to be teacher-driven. I think we found with the TSA for our student focus, Deborah Brill's model for the last 3 years has shown real positive success and has implemented and embedded the BEST program, Safe School Ambassadors, conflict resolution. It's really been that work that the TSA did at each site. So we're hopeful that this will get us off the ground, launched.
I'm just hopeful that teachers will have enough input into, how the decisions are made as to how they become involved or how they get trained. Grousing isn't really the word, but I've heard some feedback this summer of folks that just, it's summertime and it's just a little over the top. Yet the work has to get done, so I think it's really necessary for what I think you're implying is that the teachers are involved in deciding how to get it done in the most efficient way
Right.
and most meaningful way for them.
And this is totally, it has to be teacher-led.
Yep.
The supplemental materials, the new alignment to Common Core, the instructional practice, the sharing of instructional practice and resources has to be teacher-led. It cannot come from our teeny tiny district office. There's just no way you can mandate this type of instructional change, both curricular and instructional, because the minute you turn your head, if a teacher does not believe in the work
Right.
and doesn't own the work, it won't get done.
It won't work if it's
It
top-down,
won't
that's for
work.
sure.
It won't work.
Okay, and Pat had another question, which I think you've at least partially answered. She's concerned, along with the special funds that we're getting for CCSS implementation, we have some responsibility to allocate resources under LCCF to, for example, she says, low SES and EL populations. How do those two mandates interact?
To the best of my knowledge, this juncture in which we've had about 6 weeks to start understanding LCFF, one of the major purposes is to increase achievement for those populations who are at risk. And local control funding formulas help us achieve that goal. They're not necessarily directly tied to Common Core state standards implementation, but the lines are blurred because our expectation will be to help children achieve in the Common Core state standards instruction and assessment programs. It's a vague answer, I know. But
We're just trying to unpack right now the requirements of the additional monies that are coming to the district. And we don't even have the regulations. January. But at this point, we do know that we have responsibilities to educate families, community, and staff, and then have them help us determine how best to approach increasing achievement levels of our at-risk population.
Alan?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, here we go. In going through this process, have you discovered any key differences between what CCSS is proposing and what we're currently doing? It seems to me we're doing a lot of this already. I think I made that comment before.
yes,
Do you see any major stumbling blocks that we've?
yes, no.
No.
There's certainly these stumbling blocks of time and resource and any energy that has to be expended when you're
Yeah.
changing something.
That's the chief one.
Something that's going to, make a crucial difference for kids. But I think one of the most inspiring parts of this that make it worthwhile is the difference in ways in which we're going to assess student learning. So in the current model of California state standards, we ask kids to regurgitate facts, and we can only ask them questions that we can propose in multiple choice answers.
Yeah, but we don't do that in our classroom. We do so much
Teachers-
better in our classroom.
Teachers know better than that. And then they're held accountable to this factual-based, low-level, what we call lower level on knowledge-based.
So what is the state
questions.
doing about that? It seems to me
Yeah.
that's a critical
The
assessment.
Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium is got tests now that are asking children to do a lot more critical thinking, to actually write out answers and make analysis between models. If we notice the practice test is asking kids to really analyze two different sources of information and then come up with a claim and then support that claim with evidence. We've never been able to do that before with our current paper and pencil tests. And so when we help our staff see that, I've already noticed in the workshops over the summer, they're finding this very refreshing. Some will call this the pendulum swing back, and I appreciate that part of it, but it's also a pendulum swing that's more mature.
Yeah. And I'm really concerned about the status of the budget being provided for us to perform these tasks. And I'm really going to be concerned about this and how the money, the small amount of money we're being given is applied. Also, the teacher on special assignment, it appears they're going to be involved in evaluating the teacher's performance. Is
No.
that correct?
No.
Okay. Well, what are they going to be doing? Well, you did tell me,
Yeah.
but that's not going to be.
Not evaluative at all. Coaching, and that is at the classroom teacher's request. The cycles of inquiry will be very exciting work that will be done, led by the TSA and teachers at each grade level. And the gift that TSAs will provide will be either release time for teachers to visit other colleagues at various sites to see their work, also to co-teach new lessons based on the cycle of inquiry. So no evaluation at all in terms of anything that is reportable to the district.
Well, in response to the coaching, if there's not a sufficient or proper or appropriate response, we just let her go.
I don't think you can say that there isn't, I mean, there's no one right answer to how one
Yeah,
responds
that's true.
to
Very
it.
well said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, did you have any questions or comments?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Please, come on.
Well, I have one question. What is this software that you showed us?
I was going to ask that too.
Prezi.com, Prezi.com.
Prezi.com.
It is,
It's interesting.
it is, it's interesting. It's great because it's free. If you have a school website, I believe you can get in with private accounts and pay a minimal charge. But the agreement to use it for free means that everybody who's made something is now allowing that to be out in public domain.
So this presentation is now public, thanks to, I mean, Peter's
People-
work is now public.
People have borrowed this
Right.
already. So I've gone in and found other presentations on many of these other topics and found that I'm not having to rewrite from scratch blank
Yeah, that's
PowerPoint
great.
presentations.
Good for you.
And
So different.
I mean, teachers are really, I will say this started 3 years ago, and people had to create their own, and it was a bit of a learning curve. And
Yep.
now we've got umpteen thousands of them. So if you go in and search, you can find presentations created by teachers for their kids, or created by teachers for their parents, created by principals for their staff, and you then adopt. You say, I like that, and you take it and put it in your own account and use it.
And you can use their templates and things like
Yeah.
that so that you're not, and it's refreshing because it's not PowerPoint.
It's not PowerPoint, and so for some it can be a little dizzy to twist in and out of here, but we're getting better.
So this presentation's a lot different than what we actually got in our packets.
I couldn't.
You got the narrative.
We got the
that
comment.
Yeah, we got the
explains-
narrative, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I-
didn't fit, didn't,
We
yeah.
have somebody from the audience wants to.
So, yeah, so can we just go online and get this?
Yeah,
Okay,
you have to create your
thank you.
account.
Okay, I can do
And
that.
teach you how to do that, it's easy.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Kahina. I'm a mom of two at Marin. I'm also a former science teacher from LAUSD, currently unemployed. So all of this is intensely interesting to me. And I have a ton of questions, but I'm going to just ask a couple. And the first one is a little bit basic, I think, but I don't know the answer to this. I've been kind of out of touch. Is there a federal plan that is already in place or replaces NCLB?
No.
Okay.
There is legislation that's been proposed on both sides of the House, in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. It is completely partisan, and they bicker and fight on each side of that. Nobody's come to something conclusive.
Okay,
Well, that's
'cause-
unusual.
What was the question? What was the question again? What?
Is there a federal accountability program that's going to replace No Child Left Behind?
Yeah, you're right.
And a follow-up to that is, what are we going to do this year? We know that Smarter Balance Assessment is coming the year after this. We are currently making a decision as to whether we will be even taking the CSTs. And if we don't take the CSTs, we want to know what's going to happen to our federal money. We can't seem to get an answer from anyone right now.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Because for so long, our state has been tied to this program, this federal program, and everything, all the money and all the testing, kind of, we were driven by that, so.
Yeah. It's a
Okay.
great question. I
Okay.
asked that of the director at the Alameda County Office of Education. We're not the only school in the county that's facing program improvement under Nickleby. And so what are we doing? And they're vague at best.
So the CDE is adopting this UCSS in ELA and math. So what happens to the single subjects like science and history, and are those still CSTs?
Science is soon to be adopted.
Soon to be.
We think, we're hopeful this fall.
Okay.
We are not hearing anything, though, on social science or any other single content areas. And this is something we were going to talk to you about later on. at another agenda, and that is, when you abandon the CSTs, you're abandoning two forms of assessment that parents have learned to rely on, and that is our social studies participation in grades 5, 8, and 10, and our science CST. So we as a district are going to need to have something that we can hang our hat on, and we can administer district-wide and then publish in terms of our students' performance in those areas and other single subject content areas.
So that will be district-driven?
That'll be district at this point, since there is nothing out there.
And so that will be this coming spring?
We have several assessments already in place in our content areas for science and history, social science. We use the term local. So we believe those to be more authentic.
Yeah.
They're directly tied to what the teacher has provided the child in the classroom. And we are starting to recognize the value of using local assessments. We're not okay anymore hanging our hats on state and federal mandated assessments only. You can identify those by visiting your teacher or your principal, and they'll be able to give you a summary of how we look at those content areas.
Well, honestly, I think the community and parents who are even remotely interested in testing their kids aren't at all interested in the CST results. That's just a number that we've been told is important, but that's
And
really
then
good to hear.
we are
that-
certainly supportive
Yeah.
of that. But the question remains, first of all, you need to know that we are not holding teachers accountable in terms of teaching to the CST this year. We expect them to be moving away from that and beginning to pilot supplementary materials once they've determined, how we're going to align the Common Core. So then the question becomes, well, what do we do when the CST rolls around? And so we're working diligently on that. We'll keep the board updated.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome to the district. Okay, we
have a question.
Hi, Dawn Kawamoto, parent of an incoming freshman at the high school. The requirement to adopt the Common Core, that's going to be kicking in 2014, 2015 then? When is it that?
The State Board of Education in California adopted the standards in 2010, and I'm going to correct me please if I'm wrong, but our current School Board of Education adopted the Common Core state standards last year.
Okay.
But you're asking about when the testing would actually start?
Testing, I can clarify, yeah.
14, 15, right?
The rollout of the Common Core state standards testing through the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, they are the driver of this test.
Yeah.
That's rolled out in the spring of 2015.
Okay. The other question I had was, if I understand it correctly, and maybe I'm way off base, but instead of having like the multiple choice kind of bubbles, it'll be more kind of essay type of tests.
Multiple formats.
And having come from the Ocean View Elementary School, where you have a wide, rich population of students who are from many different countries, will that kind of impact the way they're able to take maybe these, instead of, the multiple choice, if they're going to have to start doing more of an essay answer, are we likely to see kind of the test scores once they kink in 2015, maybe go down for Ocean View, and hence the district overall, the test scores may get lower possibly than other school districts who don't have as rich and diverse of a ethnic population?
Yes. We anticipate that the first few years of implementing these assessments are going to tell us a lot about who our kids are.
I don't think we can predict. We can't predict that tests that it will go lower, and I don't know what accommodations for English learners, what they will be just yet.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions for Peter?
Yeah, just one, thank you, Peter. This is a very thorough and stimulating presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It was great. Thanks a lot. Dawn, you might as well get up again. I think you wanted to comment on matters not on the agenda.
Hi again. I just wanted to give you an update in regard to the last time I was here. I talked about my concern and that of some other Albany residents regarding the increased traffic in front of Ocean View Elementary once the center goes in. You know, the center is going to look fabulous. It's going to be nice to have a store there and everything. It's just the increased traffic is a bit of a concern. And so besides the proposed putting in a kind of a sidewalk right now where there's a chain link fence and a strip of dirt right here and then the creek, to have the students kind of coming from University Village or from where we live, which is right across from San Pablo and like near the library, you know, when my daughter used to come this way, instead of like walking across, exiting traffic, the parents dropping off in front of Ocean View and going back onto Jackson, is to have and ask the university, because I understand, if I'm correct, Marla, that that is their property.
Yes, that fence line is the demarcation
Right.
point.
And so to ask the university for an easement of land, and then also maybe the developer to pay for like a sidewalk or boardwalk, so the kids can come this way, come down, and then cross here outside of the traffic way. And then the add to my last presentation is to possibly see about having a 4-way lighted intersection at Monroe and Jackson. Because when I went to the Planning Commission to present this proposal, I found out there was no plans for a lighted intersection to replace the 4-way stop sign, and that the school wasn't even on the map of the whole plan. Like it was kind of like it didn't really represent that. Oh, by the way, there's an elementary school down here. So anyways, so I wanted to kind of update you and present you with this additional information, and then also a letter from the Safe Schools to the Safe Routes to Schools. They today wrote a letter in support of this proposal, and I could read it to you, or I could give it to you. I can read very fast if you'd like. It's from the Safe Routes to Schools. It says, "Dear Dawn, thank you so much for bringing this issue to our attention here at the Alameda County Safe Routes to Schools. Ocean View has been participating in Safe Routes to Schools since the program first started in 2007. We have a long history of promoting safety, lowering greenhouse emissions, and helping to create a healthier community with the students, staff, and families at Ocean View. We fully support your efforts to make the routes to school safer for Ocean View students and the surrounding community that may use the route you reference in your proposal. It is important that we get the right infrastructure in place at the beginning of the project and not wait until the project is underway before taking action. We have a great opportunity here to design a plan and implement an improvement that will greatly enhance the safety of students walking from the UC Village side of the school. We look forward to working with you, the school, the district, the city, and the developers to ensure that students can safely arrive and depart from the school. Thank you for your efforts. Sincerely, Rachel Davidman, Albany Safe Routes to School Site Coordinator."
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We can't actually
Sure.
discuss it tonight since it's not on the agenda, but we're going to ask that we have a staff report on this on the next agenda, and then we can discuss it in more detail, because I understand the superintendent has been working on this and does have something to report.
Okay.
Since we're not discussing it, you know, I know there's been some email discussion on actually doing a resolution similar to that, so I think we might get a chance to talk about that.
Just a quick question. Did this go before the Planning and Zoning Commission recently in Albany?
Yes.
Thank you.
Should I give this to you? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Jackie, can you
Thank
put it
Don.
in the minutes?
Do you want me to give you a quick update? I've also talked to the Albany Traffic Commission as well, or do you want to wait for next
how about
Next
if we
two weeks,
wait to
Wait till next
when
time.
we agendize it, and then we can have a rich discussion.
But
Thanks,
Don,
Don.
if you
Thank
have
you.
that in electronic form, if you could email it to Jackie, so she doesn't have to type it all over again, and then she can put it in the minutes for us.
We've seen that. this
Jackie?
one. So, okay.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to comment on matters not on the agenda? Well, that brings us to review and discussion items.
Yes, it's time for us to talk about your school assignments for next year. I know that we have 2 board members that are on vacation, but I believe that Member Lowe expressed some desires in a written form.
Yes, I have it here somewhere. Yeah, I can read you what she wrote. She said, I am presently associated with Marin School. I also attend many events at AHS because I am a parent there. I'm open to rotating to any school except AHS. For your information, I have not recently been associated with AMS or Cornell, so those may make sense.
So I'd like to hear what you'd like to do.
Well, the only one I've not been associated with, except for the high school, which I think wouldn't be appropriate, is Cornell, so I'm ready to do Cornell.
Cornell.
Alan?
I had a little trouble hearing Pat, but hearing the message that,
I think she suggested AMS or Cornell would be
yeah,
possibilities.
and I'd like to stay with the high school.
No, we like to rotate them every year, Alan.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So what's available?
For you, anything but the high school. Well,
Well, not really, because I've just heard that.
okay, high school or Cornell?
Ocean View.
Ocean View, Marin, Ocean View or Marin.
Well, let's see, I have a granddaughter, Marin. I guess I better choose Ocean View.
Okay.
It's a
And
fascinating place to hang out.
we usually tie ACC to Ocean View, so would you mind?
Sure.
Good, thank
I
you.
have a granddaughter at ACC as well.
Well, then you get to see her.
Very good.
Okay, so you just picked,
I picked Ocean View.
you picked Ocean View, and John is at Marin. He has a child at Marin, right? So maybe he should move to the high school.
I think John should move to the high school.
And that,
You'll take Marin?
I'll take Marin.
Well done.
That was easy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And we have a review and action item, a resolution to close the commercial property loophole.
Yes, Resolution 2013-14-2, close the commercial property loophole. Whereas Proposition 13, passed in 1978, is unfair in that it allows commercial property owners to avoid paying their fair share and has shifted the tax burden to residential property and away from business, including everyday homeowners and working families. And whereas the state of California continues to face chronic budget crises in large part because Proposition 13 has forced the state to rely on more volatile revenue sources than the property tax, like income taxes and sales taxes paid by working families that move in tandem with economic cycles, causing deficits and requiring cuts to vital services that grow our economy and thereby worsening economic downturns. And whereas regularly reassessing non-residential commercial property would, according to an analysis of data provided by the California Board of Equalization, generate at least $6 billion in additional revenue for California and shift the tax burden from homeowners, renters, and working families to corporations and commercial landholders. Therefore, be it resolved that the Albany Unified School District supports commercial property tax reform that will require non-residential commercial properties to be assessed regularly while maintaining residential property owners' protections under Proposition 13. Therefore, be it further resolved that the Albany Unified School District will communicate this position to local elected officials. Pass it and adopt it.
Okay, do we have
Like a
discussion
motion?
or questions?
I would like to enthusiastically move Resolution 2013-14-2, close the commercial property.
So I have a couple of questions. I
Okay,
thoroughly endorse this as well. I had somebody come around to my house proposing that I join in an effort to achieve this Proposition 13 revision as well. And he showed, and I'm well aware of this actually, but it's a dramatic shift in the amount of property tax that a corporation pay relative to residences. And I've been hearing about this for a long time. I just hope we can get it to happen. So
Was that a second?
Do we take that as a second?
that's a second, sure.
Okay, so
How are we limited? We have some limits on how we can support.
we can't, we can pass a resolution in favor of it. We can't go out and actively, what's the word?
As a board.
Commit the board, but we can as individuals.
We can't proselytize it. We can't go out and campaign for it, but we can pass a resolution supporting it, and in response to any questions about it, we can certainly state that if we pass this, which I think we're going to, we can state that the board has officially supported this position.
But as an individual, not
As an
representing the
individual,
board,
as long as you say you are not representing the board, you can say whatever you want.
Just like in public hearings. Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. So the resolution passes. And we have a review and action item for an adult appointment to the City of Albany Community Media Access Committee.
Well, there's been an individual in the audience that's been patiently
Very
waiting
patient.
as we have gone through our regular business to finally get to this action item. The board finally has an adult appointment, that a person that's come forward that would like to serve on the Media Access Committee. Terry Lamb, who has expressed interest, is here this evening to volunteer his services. And this will be our first time we've been able to fill this position in the history of this committee being formed by the city. So Terry, please come forward and be recognized. I
We
know the
still have a
board-
student rep, is that correct?
Oh, yes, we've
Yeah.
been very fortunate in having strong student
sure have.
representation.
Great student reps. but
Yes.
This is a great thing, too.
This is a great rep. I've already talked to him.
I'll say a little bit, if you like.
Sure.
I'm a video producer, filmmaker, actor. I've lived in this town for 31 years. Most of my work is outside of Albany, but I'm really interested in making films and having the voice of students be heard, young people be heard through the medium of video. There's a lot of stuff that's being done on the web now. Many people are having access to the relatively inexpensive tools that are available in terms of making films. And I was invited to participate in the Media Access Committee because of my background. When I went to the meeting and I heard them talking about what it was that they were doing and what they needed in the way of participation in the committee, there was this slot available. And rather than just being a member of the committee, I said, you know, what really interests me is doing something that would connect me with young folks that I could encourage and support to tell their stories through this medium, because that's the essence of my work for many years, is to help people tell their stories through the medium of video. I work a lot with nonprofit groups, small business entrepreneurs, to help them tell their stories on the internet. And I think it would be really useful for there to be some kind of, and I don't know how this is going to all play out, but for there to be some kind of concerted effort to help students use the tools they have available, even if it's just a cell phone, to tell a story in a way that is effective and makes sense and really communicates and is not just random pictures. That there are millions of those being put out on the internet, and I think it'd be great if the young people had a little bit more insight into storytelling and making it a useful tool in terms of making that communication through that medium. And so I said, what I prefer, rather than just being a member of the committee, is being a representative that connects with the schools in Albany. So that's why I volunteered for this.
That's terrific.
So didn't we meet at the Albany Film Festival? Did you go to that?
No, haven't been at the film festival.
We met somewhere.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of good student films at that festival as well.
that was one of the things that the media committee mentioned to me, is that they would really like to have more student participation. Not that there isn't any, but they would like more and more sophisticated student participation. So if it's something that I can help out with, I'd love to be able to do that.
That's great. We do have a video production class, and I'm sure they would love to have this liaison helping them out.
That's great.
So I'll move that we appoint Terry Lamb as our adult appointment to the City of Albany Community Media Access Committee.
And I'm pleased to second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Let me ask a question, if I may. What do you need from me? Do you need reports back periodically?
Yes, and we will, I'd like to have you come in and talk with me.
Sure.
Perhaps Jackie can arrange something this week or next, so we can talk a little bit about what the district would love to have in terms of reports back to the board.
Fine.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
for stepping up. And that brings us to board and superintendent comments.
Yes, boy, there's a lot going on right now. Teachers are beginning to come back. We have a rekeying project that's going on, facilities, lots of facilities work. But most importantly, our 2 days of professional development, which will be the 23rd of August and the 26th. I would like to encourage the board to assist staff in our annual barbecue on the 26th. That'll be at Memorial Park at noon. And if you could let me know at some point, if you can help serve, that would be just great. Good way to welcome all staff back.
So that's
Could you send us out a reminder
I
email?
will send you a reminder.
What time of the day?
At noon,
Noon?
I'm flying in the day before, so I volunteer.
maybe. That'd be great.
Excellent. Anything else? John, who has been silent in this meeting up till now, has sent me something to read during board and superintendent comments. It says, "It has been 5 months since the Albany police informed the district that they had convincing evidence of child sexual molestation by a teacher at Albany Middle School. While this sort of abuse is rare, it is not rare enough. Several other cases of abuse of students in Bay Area schools have been reported by news media in recent months. I hope other board members will join me in asking that staff make a full report to the board as soon as possible on all measures that have been or will be taken to ensure that the children in our schools are safe from sexual abuse and inappropriate contact." And I would
Yeah.
second that request.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful on what, breaching confidentiality as far as specifics.
Oh, and we're not talking about any specifics about past cases, just what the district is doing.
So the
We can
district's
have a report.
response
Got
to,
it.
and what we're doing to educate kids and
staff.
staff. Is that what I hear you saying?
Maybe we can get
Yes.
a district, a staff report on it.
Okay.
Staff report.
I think that'd be great as far as letting the public know that, number one, we are doing things. And
Yes.
number two, that we're
Will
being
do.
very proactive.
When would you like that report?
Let's see how busy our next agenda is, and it can
Okay.
be in September if that,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or?
I'll hold off on my request for the memorial, and I can talk a bit more before I request the plan for this transition McGregor blending to the high school, what the McGregor program's going to look like. So maybe we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, I think we'd
Yeah.
like the agenda, and have the public hear that as well, so putting it on the agenda if possible.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Well, let us know when you're
I'll
ready.
move that we put that on the agenda.
Okay. A report on the transition as planned by
Yeah,
the.
what's the McGregor transition going to look like as we're going into the high school blending process?
Okay, are we
received
ready?
some-
to-
Well, I'm not
We
ready
had a
to,
recent report on that.
I'm not ready to give you a report. It's going to have to be dovetailed with the facilities master plan steering committee. There are some things that have come up at that site that I'm going to need some direction on, and then I need to come to the board to get some endorsement on that direction. So I'm thinking the first board meeting in September.
Sure.
Okay?
That's
Is that
close
all right?
enough,
Okay.
yeah, to the start of school, so.
Okay, good.
Get some updates on weekly communication.
Absolutely. They will, now that we're back in session, you'll get your first one on Friday.
Terrific. Okay, anything else? All right, the meeting is closed. Thank you all for coming.